Hey guys. Yes, there is a cat in my lap because when is there not? Um, Welcome to the new view. Kind of, sort of, maybe. It's basically just instead of the camera looking this way, it's now looking this way. I'm gonna do this video with my glasses on. I know that the glare is kind of obnoxious, but I kind of need to see for what I'm doing, and if I take them off, I can't see hardly anything. So we're just gonna try it like this. I did the best I could to try and combat the glare, but it is what it is. So the other day I was puttering around on Instagram because that's what we do, and I came across a post of a account that I follow that shares tarot decks, and they were sharing the Revelations Tarot, which is my first tarot deck. And I thought a lot about how I've said before in my deep dive over the last year and a half, 2 years now with tarot, where my understanding of it has changed dramatically. I have realized that the Revelations Tarot was not really a good beginner deck. So now I'm thinking, well, what would I recommend if someone asked me for beginner decks? And I decided to pull out the ones that I do have and kind of share them with you. Now, obviously, no expert here, and this is just my experience on what I think would be really helpful for beginner decks. But I'm going to say that this is all going to go under the foundation of Rider-Waite-Smith, because if you are learning the Rider-Waite-Smith system, which is what I know, then it's best to work with a Rider-Waite deck, especially starting out, because it's going to help you build the foundation, and then once you know that imagery as a base, you can now see that throughout other decks, even though it's a different artist's interpretation of it. So the first few decks I'm going to recommend are going to be Rider-Waite. I only have 2 Rider-Waite decks, but my top recommendation, honestly, would be the Smith-Waite Centennial in a tin, especially because this one is portable and you can just kind of take it wherever. But the other reason why I recommend it is because I honestly did not like Rider-Waite because it's just so yellow. I'm not a big fan of yellow. And as soon as I decided to get this little one in a tin to carry around with me, I thought, wow, why didn't I get this one to begin with? Because the colors are so muted and it's kind of got that more like antique-y type look to it, where it's just not so abrasive. Here we go. I'm trying to figure out how to keep the camera focused on it. But I do think that this is definitely, so it wants to focus on my face, sorry guys. This is definitely the top one I would recommend if you're really learning tarot and you're starting out and you want a study deck. Centennial Waite in a tin. They do have a larger version of this that's borderless. I honestly think that the Rider-Waite looks really weird without borders, personally, but that's my thing. I think maybe if I saw the borderless version in person, I might feel differently, but yeah. So Centennial Waite in a tin. I really think you can't go wrong for your first deck or your study deck if you want to learn Rider-Waite. The second one that I have that's Rider-Waite is actually the first Rider-Waite that I got, and this one I don't read with. This one is specifically a study deck. This is the Universal Waite, so it's got like the starry backs, which I think are really pretty. This one is, again, it's more colorful than the Centennial Waite, but it's really interesting. Those cards, oh wait, no, this deck is not shuffled, but this deck is shuffled, so that's interesting that they're right next to each other. But this one has more of that like colored pencil appearance. Some of them are going to be reversed because I was teaching myself how to riffle shuffle with this deck. So if I can get the camera to focus though, pull it back. maybe. Keep it out of my face. Anyway, so I'm not gonna fight with it. Sorry guys, but this one has more of like a kind of colored pencil-y appearance to it. It's not as intense or jarring as the original Rider-Waite. So this is another one that I would recommend. Like I said, I strictly use this for a study deck, or, you know, teaching myself how to riffle shuffle, which has been going awesome. If I had room, I'd try it. But my keyboard is like right here, so my desk is kind of small. You guys probably saw in my last video where I gave you a tour of my changing up my space. So yeah, those are my two Rider-Waites, and that would be my top recommendation, is start with Rider-Waite. Even if it doesn't really appeal to you, start there, and then you can kind of branch out to other decks that might appeal to you more visually. I know I personally am such a visual person that that didn't make much sense. That I was really not drawn to the Rider-Waite when I first started reading tarot, and I didn't realize the significance of it. And I've done a video on this where I kind of talked about how I've learned the significance of it and the importance of it. But that is my top recommendation. Get yourself a Rider-Waite. Start with that. Even if you don't really end up connecting with it on a deeper level and you don't read with it a ton, keep it, study it, learn those images, because that is going to give you the foundation for the Rider-Waite system. I should definitely put in this title of this video that this is strictly for the Rider-Waite system, because I have not... I've started to learn Marseille a little bit, and I have not learned Thoth. So, Thoth I'm curious about, though. So now we're going to get into the ones that I have that are close to Rider-Waite and still adhere closely to the imagery, so that when you're reading it, you can really pick up on it. But they are different decks. They're different artists, they're different interpretations, but they don't veer very far from it. So this first one is the Crystal Visions. I've modded this deck, I trimmed and edged it, and it looks way better this way, in my opinion. But this one is really, really close to Rider-Waite, but it's got that kind of fantasy feel to it. This cam. There we go. It's got that kind of fantasy feel to it that I think looks fantastic. Ugh. I can't win, guys. I'm trying so hard, I'm sorry. And it's also very earthy. It's a very gentle deck, and it's got a lot of purples and pinks and blues in it, but the cards are very, very recognizable to Rider-Waite. They're not exactly, obviously, but they don't veer a whole lot. So if you're looking at this imagery and you know the Rider-Waite, you will know this deck. It will be really easy for you to pick up on. So this is another one that's great for starting out. I have a handful here. A few of these are going to be kind of theme decks, but they still are so close to Rider-Waite that if this is your thing, then I recommend it. The next one I have here is the Moon Crystal Tarot. This is a Sailor Moon themed deck. I am obsessed with Sailor Moon, as you guys know. Behind me right here is a Sailor Moon blanket. I have a Sailor Moon tattoo. Oh, Prue, where are you going? So, I'm just gonna lay on my bed. So when I was told that this deck was a thing, and it was given to me by a couple of really great friends of mine as a birthday present this year, I was like, shall I say over the moon? So I was ecstatic, but it is really, really close to Rider-Waite. In fact, more so than the Crystal Visions, and it features the characters from the show. So if you love Sailor Moon, I really recommend this deck. It is an indie deck though. I just found out that the second edition is coming out, and she's holographing the edges, so I thought that was really cool. But yeah, this one really close to Rider-Waite, very, very close, and it's fantastic. I will say, so far up to this one, all the other decks I have mentioned have been mass market. You can get them very easily. This, however, is indie and slightly more expensive. So that's really up to you how you want to do that. And I will, from now on, mention, I think there's only one other indie deck in here. The rest of them are mass market and easily available. The next one is the Crow Tarot. This is another one that is, like I said, mass market, and you can easily get it. This one also adheres very, very close to Rider-Waite's, and it features crows. Now, some people might consider this artwork a little bit busy because it is kind of collage-esque. I personally found myself being able to read with this very, very easily, and I was able to connect with this deck really quickly just from my understanding of Rider-Waite. So it was just a no-brainer for an easy read deck, for sure. So if this is your thing, this kind of gives that sort of like mystical vibe to it too, basically paying homage to crows and their mysteriousness. If I remember correctly, paying homage to the mystical energy of crows and ravens. The Crow Tarot invites us to fly through the veil and connect with our intuitive powers. So, there you go. Yeah, this deck is awesome. Can get it back in there. This is definitely more of a fall deck for me too. I'm like, oh, it's so perfect. Speaking of another fall deck, really close to the Rider-Waite, the Halloween Tarot. This one is very affordable and mass market, and you will notice there is one card in here that is not modded yet. That's because I have to fix a mess up I did. But I trimmed this deck. I initially was not going to trim this deck, but I screwed up. I was gonna blacken the borders and I smudged the Fool. You can see that right there. Oh, other side. Right there. Yep. Smudge the Fool. So I'm going to fix that, and then I'm going to edge it and color in these white borders, the remainder of the white borders here, so they will end up looking like this, and mostly edged. But this deck, Halloween themed, but very, very close to the Rider-Waite. The one thing about this deck though is that the suits are renamed, but if you know the imagery, you can pick it up really quickly. Like imps are wands, bats are swords, pumpkins are pentacles, and ghosts are cups. This is such a cute little deck, and it's so fun. I just love it so much. And it's all Halloween themed, but it's really, really close to Rider-Waite, and I think it's a really good one for a beginner, just because the images are very, very similar. So if that is your thing, that is another one that I recommend. I'm trying to stack all these in my lap. Okay, I have two more decks left. One of them is mass market, one of them is indie. This is the mass market one. This is the Triple Goddess Tarot. This one is slightly different, but it's still, I think, is close enough that you could probably read with it pretty easily. I personally read with it very easily. I can read with it intuitively, and that's how I know that I've gotten comfortable with the deck, is when I can start to kind of read with it intuitively, I'm finding. Those are the backs. The only thing is that the some of the majors are changed, and they also don't have their titles on them for the majors. So if you can see, I wrote that on there with silver Sharpie because I wanted to be able to, I mean, I think I could have honestly recognized most of the cards, but for instance, the Magician is changed. I believe it's the Maiden. This is the Hierophant, but this is like my favorite Hierophant, one of my favorite aside from the one in Santa Muerte. See if I can show you. Please just focus. love of all things. It's called the Teacher instead, but it's just, yeah, it's a beautiful card. It's not focusing, and I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, this deck, I think the imagery is changed, but it's not changed so much that it veers so far that you really couldn't recognize it. I honestly think. Like, it's very clear that that's the Four of Wands, you know. The kings are changed in this deck. They are all female. There's only one male, I believe only one male in this deck. That is the one thing that I actually don't like about this deck, is that the one male is the Emperor, and he looks frightening. But it's supposed to be the journey through the Maiden, the Mother, and the Crone. So, yeah, it goes with the theme of the deck, in a sense. I just wish it was done maybe a little bit differently, but you can see, like, that is clearly the Seven of Cups. This is the Tower. It's the Crone. That's the one card that kind of didn't really make much sense to me. And it does come with a little white book. But yeah, this one, I think you could still make it work. And you could still read with it pretty easily. It's not a pip deck, so for instance, the minors, they do have human figures in them. And I feel like that is a lot easier to read. I love this Four Swords too. Although, again, it won't focus. But, yeah, so those are the Triple Goddess Tarot. It is mass market, and if I remember correctly, it is really not that expensive. Now, the last one is an indie deck. This is the Darkness of Light Tarot. And I think this deck is just stunning. I'm trying to get out the tuck boxes, man. So one thing I wish is that this deck didn't have a tuck box. Oh, there we go. Like, I'm missing a card. Again, slightly different, but you can still see that it is very much, like, very much Rider-Waite. Some of the suits are, like, for instance, the swords are called blades, or the pentacles are called coins. Some of the titles are in a different language. I can't remember which one that is right now. I think it's Italian. And then, yeah, but you can still tell. And I really like this deck a lot. This deck is beautiful. And I'd say it's definitely close enough to Rider-Waite that it works. But this deck and the Triple Goddess are the ones that I'd say that I've shared that are a little bit further from Rider-Waite comparatively to the other ones that I have shared, but I still put them in here because I do think that they still kind of fall in that category where they would be good beginners decks because they're easy to read with, they still follow the Rider-Waite imagery pretty heavily, and yeah. So that's what I have for you guys tonight. Again, disclaimer, by no means am I any sort of expert. This has just been my experience with deep diving more into tarot and understanding Rider-Waite, the Rider-Waite system, and the decks that I have that I think would make a good fit for beginners. And yeah, but I'm gonna say first and foremost, get yourself a Rider-Waite, learn these images. And for me, what really helped was drawing it every day and really kind of implementing it into my daily life, trying to focus on the card and figure out how it correlates to what is going on in my day. And as soon as I was able to make that connection, it was much, much easier for me to understand the many different meanings that these cards can convey. And don't let yourself be so strict that you have to be constantly by the book. Look at the imagery, explore it, try and figure out what it means to you if you're pulling a daily card. I mean, perfect example. Let's see if I can find it really quick. Of course, it's going to be at the bottom of the deck. I'm calling it right now. It's going to be at the bottom of the deck. Today I got the Tower. And I was like, oh, great. If you know, that's not the best card to get. But it basically just meant that there was going to be a great disturbance in my home life where I would have to kind of reroute my day and kind of reconfigure how my routine was going to go. We're just going to go to the bottom of the deck because I'm so convinced this is at the bottom. Where are you? Aha! I was right. I was right. I said it was going to be at the bottom of the deck, and there it is, because that's always how this freaking happens. So, the Tower. You know, whenever I look at this card, I always think immediately sudden upheaval. What's going to happen in my life that's just gonna completely reroute the direction that everything is going? And for my daily card today, what this card represented is that basically there was a home repair that needed to happen that made it so my entire day had to shift in a different direction, and there was just going to be a lot of disturbance in my routine. So try and think about it from that perspective of sometimes it can even be the simplest things, and sometimes the simplest things can become a big thing. So, and sometimes when we draw our daily cards, the tarot is trying to tell us that's what's going to happen. And sometimes the Tower can even represent a sort of upheaval within yourself. Maybe all of a sudden your mood shifts that day to, wow, I don't feel that great, you know? So that's just something to think about. But yes, that is what I have for you guys tonight. I hope you enjoyed my recommendations for beginner decks, and I will see you all in my next video.